Amber Alert Podcast.
Again, my intro video did not play. So this is the Amber Alert Podcast. Welcome. My name is Amber Starkey. I am your host. And that sucked as an opening, but that's okay. This is episode 96. And there's no sound. So there is sound, but there wasn't video sound, which I expected. It's okay. On the agenda for today, if you've been watching or if you haven't been, that's okay. I'm going to explain what we're doing now. I started really at the beginning of this year, breaking these episodes into 3 parts because they go long. And now I'm going to do all 3 parts tonight, but they're going to be 3 different live videos. So this is part 1 where we're going to do news and politics and things like that. And then at the end of this, we're going to end the video and we're going to go into part 2, which will be its own live stream for the platforms that I go live on at the end of the day or tomorrow. I post all of them on the other platforms I don't go live on. But anyway, part 2, that's where we'll be talking about a conspiracy theory today, which is back in the news. It's not new, but it's back in the news, and I'll get to why that is. So we'll go over that, which should be relatively quick. And then part 3 will also be its own live stream. We'll get into the Bible, something that I've read it a ton of times. I'm familiar with the verse, but it jumped off the page and I thought, wow, there's really something to that. So it led me to go on this little study. And so I don't have a ton of scripture. Normally I have like 50 verses. I don't have a ton of scripture this time. I have some, obviously, because this is all scripturally based, but it's exciting to me. So anyway, this portion is news and politics, so let's go ahead and get into it. First things first. Breaking: United States Representative Tim Burchett says aliens could be stationed in 5 or 6 underwater bases off the U.S. coast. I don't know why he said this. I would be interested to know why. I think that could be true because of how many people have seen UFOs going into the water. And then they even have USOs. I forget, that's like unidentified submersible anomaly, whatever. I forget. No, it'd be object. Sorry. I don't know. They seem they always have something to do with water, it seems like, oftentimes. And now not everybody would know that because a lot of times you see them, they're just in the sky and you can definitely see them nowhere near water. But there have been a ton that people have seen go into water. So I would not be surprised if that's true. I'm just interested to know why he said it. What's he know? He's doing a good job investigating it from what I can tell. I respect him. Next. Does this need to be a little bit bigger? No, I'm not going to be able to read that. It's too far away. Okay. New: the woman who filmed herself berating Core Power Yoga staffers for being complicit in ICE raids brags about leaving all the weights on the floor to make them pick up. I care about our neighbors and their experience, the woman virtue signaled. The woman bragged about how good of a person she was before saying she and other white liberal women tossed all the weights in a pile to make the workers pick up. These women are completely nuts. Can I just say, anyone who doesn't put back their gym equipment, like, you honestly deserve the electric chair. Okay. Same with people who put their stuff on machines and benches that they're not using. Same with people that are screaming so loud with their friend that you have your headphones turned up all the way and you still can't drown them out. Same with people that lean on, sit on, or stand on stuff they're not using, so you can't use it even though you're trying to work out and they're just standing around talking. Same with people who give you unsolicited advice. So basically, anyone who doesn't have basic gym etiquette, firing squad. But this is worse because they're doing it, what does this say again? So she bragged about what a good person she is and then left all the weights on the floor. No, everybody knows. That's like, in some way, I'd say it's worse. It is worse than not putting your cart back in the cart corral or whatever they're called at like a grocery store or whatever. But everybody knows. Everyone knows people who don't put their carts back suck. You're at the bottom. You might as well be in the Epstein files. Nobody likes you, and I think that brings everybody together. Every normal person who knows it's proper etiquette and courtesy to just put the cart back where it goes. Nobody likes a person who doesn't put their cart back. So you're that person times 10 to like put a pile of dumbbells in the middle of the floor. I hope they fine those people, or there's got to be something you can do. I probably are more irritated by that than a normal person, but I've got PTSD for multiple reasons. I used to run a gym, so I have PTSD for that reason. But I also have worked out in a ton of different gyms, and I have PTSD from all of them because of people without gym etiquette, which is why I would give anything to have a home gym, because I want to be able to go when I want and not have to hide from anyone that's annoying. I want to be able to not have to wait on equipment. I want to not have to hear other people. I want no one looking at me or trying to talk to me. I want to be left alone. And so people with a home gym, I don't know if you know how blessed you are. You're in the top 1% of the most blessed people on planet Earth. And I don't mean just like a few things in your garage. I'm talking like you've got a legit home gym. I know some people like that, and I just want you to know, I wonder what it's like to be God's favorite. Anyway, next. Veteran homicide investigator Paul Ciolino. Okay, let me just pause. If you have been listening, or if you are listening or you're going to listen, you'll find out that there are a lot of things that I don't know how to pronounce. I'm not bad at reading, but I don't know how to pronounce a lot of things, but that'll never stop me from trying. So if I try to sound something out and I don't know how to say it, just know that that's normal and it's going to be a regular thing. So back to this guy's name. I don't know. You sound like you've killed people in New Jersey. No offense. Paul Ciolino, who has worked with 48 Hours and CBS News as an on-air expert, says key elements of a true kidnapping aren't present in the Nancy. I don't know how to say this. Is it Guthrie or is it Guthrie? I feel like I'm going to go with Guthrie, but I don't know. And I don't know what I just messed up and said. Nancy Guthrie is what I'm going with. Okay. I do think this whole case seems a little bit weird. Now, I certainly hope that woman is okay. I think she's in her 80s. God bless her. I hope she's fine. I hope nothing terrible has happened to her. I hope she gets found. I don't at all like have ill feelings. But it does seem, the whole case seems a little bit strange. Why is it dominating the news? And again, I understand her daughter is like a TV personality. I don't know what she does. I think her name's Savannah. I couldn't tell you what she does. So I get it. Her mom going missing is more important to people than, say, if my mom went missing. And that's not, I don't mean that in a derogatory way against my mom. It just means this lady's mom is much more high profile because of her daughter has a name a lot of people know. So I get, it'd be like if any celebrity person's parent went missing, everyone's going to care. But like if your next door neighbor lost their kid, there would be 30 people who cared, and that's it. But it seems strange. It's dominating the news. And the whole thing seems a little bit weird. Like that guy saying, I don't think she was kidnapped. And I don't think he's the only one to make statements like that. Other people who have some background or work experience in kidnappings and whether former law enforcement, things like that, they're like, this case is a little bit sus. I feel like there are things missing here that would make this case normal, which begs the question, why? Why would this be all over the news if it's not even quite legitimate? Which makes you then wonder, what is the more little news? What is the smaller news that's potentially going on that nobody's looking at because they're all obsessing over this case? I don't know. Is the government like passing some bills they don't want us to know about? Or are we secretly going to war? It just makes you wonder, like, what's going on that I may not be aware of because everyone's seeing what's in the big headlines. So I don't know. We'll just see how things shake out. Next, breaking: a statement announcing Jeffrey Epstein's death revealed in newly released Epstein files. But okay, what? So his death revealed in newly released Epstein files, but was dated. This sentence, I don't think, either I'm an idiot or this sentence doesn't make sense. But whatever. What they're saying is his death was dated. This document that came out, his death, it was dated one day before he actually died. Which, for the people who don't believe he killed himself, that's a really good indicator that he didn't. Usually people don't know the day before someone kills themselves, and they don't put it on official documents or anything like that. Unless they were in on something, which then makes it not a suicide, I'm guessing. Where was Hillary Clinton is my question. I do think he's dead. I know that's a going conspiracy theory that Jeffrey Epstein has been spotted and he's alive and well living in Israel or this other country or whatever. I think he's dead. Now that you people have seen, and I'm talking like the normies. So for the people who did not believe that the elites are satanic, cannibalistic, devil worshiping pedophiles and murderers, for the people who didn't believe that, I did. I've known for years, which unfortunately has desensitized me. So these Epstein files come out, and as horrible as they are, I'm like, well, that's kind of what I expected, which isn't good. But anyway, wouldn't you think, with as disgusting and evil and really indescribable how awful it is that these people, all of the things they were doing on his island, don't you think, and how widespread this is? Because you got to think, let's go. Like, okay, I voted for Trump 3 times, okay, and I don't regret voting for him, but can we admit that Pam Bondi definitely looks like she's covering for people? Kash Patel, the DOJ is not doing their job. They're definitely covering for people, in my opinion. I think it's obvious. So it's huge. I'm sure there are names in there that would like destabilize or even collapse the government, and not even maybe just America's government, but the governments of other countries as well. So I think they're covering, and it may be to keep the economy from crashing. It may be to avoid a war or a conflict. But I say bring the house down. I think every single name should come out. Every single person who did something heinous to kids on that island or contributed to it in any way should go to the electric chair, but not before they've suffered. I think you need to spend some time in prison without good treatment, because sometimes death is like too easy. You always get mad if you watch a movie and they kill it's been building the whole movie and then they kill them too quick. It's not satisfying. So you do need to like make it like sting. They need to sit and think about what they've done. So anyway, back to Jeffrey Epstein. If you were a person who knew him and was doing those kind of things with him, would you want him to be alive still? As soon as he went to jail, I know if I were involved, I'd be like, how do we kill him? Before he gets a chance to talk to anybody and bring the house down, how do we kill him? So the fact that everyone's like, he's still alive, I bet he's dead. I bet there are tons of people who wanted that guy dead as soon as he went to jail. So I don't think he's alive, but I don't think he killed himself. I think someone definitely took him out. Next, speaking of that, Tim Burchett, whatever. Any pedophile found guilty of crimes against children should be publicly hanged. I agree, but again, not before they've suffered. Panic Preliminary ratings numbers show viewership for Bad Bunny halftime performance tanked 39% from last year. Only 26.5 million households watched. I was one of them, I'm not going to lie. 48.6 million tuned into the game, meaning nearly half of Americans turned off the TV at halftime. Total culture victory. All right, let me just say, I have been a Bad Bunny fan, and this is not a recent thing. Going back years, I have really liked his music. Now, I'm not fluent in Spanish, so I don't know what he's saying. I knew it was definitely explicit, but I didn't know what he was saying. I actually like Latin music. I have for years. And I've always liked his. Now, I haven't listened in recent years very much at all, because he kind of turned into a Satanist, from what I can tell, and a cross-dressing weirdo. And then of course, as soon as he dated Kendall Jenner, I was like, well, that's, he could have maybe come back from some stuff, but probably not now. Although I have been praying for him. But anyway, that being said, I actually do like his music. I just haven't listened. I watched the Super Bowl halftime show, which I know it's old news now because it's been almost a week, but I didn't think so. I expected a full-on satanic ritual. Why? Because the last several have been that. Rihanna, plenty of them have been satanic. So I expected that. I didn't see Satanism. So I was like, well, this isn't as bad as I expected. I know the lyrics were dirty. I know that. I know there was twerking, which there's always twerking. So that I wasn't personally offended, because they all have twerking anyway. Two dudes were grinding on each other, but no one made out. I didn't see any gay people kissing, so again, not as bad as I expected. He didn't come out in a dress, so not as bad as I expected. It definitely was a middle finger to ICE, which I expected. So my honest opinion is it was not as bad as expected. And the only reason I watched it was to see if it would be. I actually didn't watch it to hear his music, even though I like it. A couple songs came on and I was like, oh, let's go. But it wasn't to enjoy it. I watched it for research. I did. But in the other room, I had two TVs on. In the other room, the Turning Point show was on. So I contributed to viewership for both of them in my house. Anyway. So I do think I think the only reason they selected him to do the halftime show is because of him being Hispanic, which he's Puerto Rican, so he's a U.S. citizen. I think, and I know he's won some Grammys lately, but I think they did it only because of this outrage over ICE, and it just so happens that the primary people group that ICE has been deporting has been Hispanic people. And it's not that all of ICE hates all of Hispanics. It's just that the primary ethnic group that came over the open border was Hispanic people. So naturally, there are more of them than are maybe Asian people or white illegal Russians or whatever it is, which they've deported them as well. Even more than Haitians or people like that. It's primary Hispanic people. So I think that's the only reason they picked him. So it could be like an FU to ICE. And I saw a bunch of white liberal people. White liberals are literally the worst. I saw a bunch of white liberal people accusing other white people of being racist because they didn't want to watch Bad Bunny. Well, I didn't say anything. I'm not going to argue with people in comments. It's a stupid waste of my time. But I wanted to be like, I bet none of you white liberals who are calling other white people racist because they didn't want to listen to someone speak in Spanish when they can't understand Spanish. They don't care for that kind of music. And it has nothing to do with him being Hispanic. It's the fact that he's not speaking English. So you're calling them racist when I bet you idiots couldn't even name his songs. You couldn't name a song from 2018 unless you looked it up as soon as he was announced as the performer for the Super Bowl to act like you were a fan all along because you're not racist. I bet you don't like his music either. And you couldn't name a single song, whereas I actually could. I've got a list of them here in my Spotify account. So who's the racist here? The person who actually likes his music but understood it was going to be woke, or you who was a white liberal and fake virtue signaling like they always are. Yeah, I'm sure you're such an ally to the Hispanic community that you just suddenly love Latin music. I doubt it. I doubt it. And I also bet you wouldn't even date and marry a Hispanic person. Half of these white liberals are like that. Oh, I would never. They're like this. I'd never be caught dating a black guy. And then they'll go marry a white guy, which is fine. Marry whatever you want. But it's like, don't sit there and call people racist because they don't want to listen to music in a language they don't speak, when you wouldn't even date somebody from this ethnicity that you're acting like you're so protective over. Like, shut up. You're so fake. I don't even, people literally, this liberal like cancer that has infected people's minds, it has to be a demonic hive mind. It has to be, because these people can't even think for themselves. All they do is just regurgitate these liberal talking points that they hear on MSNBC, or they hear it from The View, or whatever liberal like content they're taking in. And that's all they do, is they can't even think for themselves. I just know that ICE is the worst because they're deporting someone who's here illegally that raped a 5-year-old girl, and you're upset that they're deporting that person. Why aren't you outraged over the fact that the 5-year-old girl got raped? Why don't you have any care for her? Just for the perp you do. Up is down to these people. There's a verse in Isaiah. It says something like truth is thrown to the street. And I forget what the rest of the verse says. I think it's in Isaiah 59. It perfectly sums up the mentality of the culture today, of the liberal culture today. It's like there's not an ounce of truth in anything, and there's no sense in anything, and you're just, some girl I just saw was caught lighting like a warehouse on fire because she thought ICE was using it. So you're literally willing to murder people. You're trying to kill people because you think they're in there. You're committing arson, all because you're upset about illegal criminals being deported. Have you sat down and thought about your position and why you hold it? Why do you have a problem with the law being enforced? It would be different if ICE was just going rogue and just stopping at any house they want and shooting people in the head and throwing people in cages that are not here illegally and are not a criminal and all this stuff. But they're not. They're literally deporting people who are here illegally, which is a crime. It's a crime. If you want to be in this country, we welcome immigration, but you got to do it legally. That's all. There's a massive difference between immigrants and illegal immigrants. There's a huge difference. So if you don't want to be bothered by ICE and you don't want to be deported, then be here legally. It's very, very simple. And if you can't do it, then I'm sorry, but this is, arguably the greatest country on planet Earth. So there might be a little bit of some red tape to get through if you want to be a citizen. You're going to have to pay probably some money. Take a number and get in line. We pay money for you to even be here half the time. We pay money for everything, so you're not being unfairly treated. We get taxed to death on everything. You might have to pass a test. It might be a little bit of a vetting process, which I would expect. If I tried to go become a citizen of another country, I expect they're going to check me out. They're going to see if I'm a criminal. What are my intentions? What do you plan to do here? Why do you want to be a citizen? Pay us some money, learn some things about our culture or learn our language or whatever. I would expect to have to do that if I wanted to go set up shop in another country. But for some reason, and all those countries get away with it, they're all allowed to have immigration policies and all that. But for some reason, America is just supposed to open the door and say, everybody come in unchecked. It's fine. It happened under the last administration. And now that's why we're having to clean up that mess. And for all you liberals who are acting like you're outraged over the Epstein files, as every person should be outraged, understand that a ton of kids got trafficked over that open border under Biden. So if you're going to act like you care about kids not being sold into sex trafficking, then you got to be pro shut the border down and check people who come across the border. And whatever you do, you don't just hand kids off to people. Next. Breaking unsealed court documents detail how Trump called the police about Jeffrey Epstein in 2006, where he described Ghislaine Maxwell as Epstein's evil operative. So all the people that are like, I want the Epstein files out because I think they're going to incriminate Trump, they've actually cleared him as far as we can tell. Everything he said about outing him as a creep in the early 2000s has been corroborated in the files. So the only thing I would say, if you want to call Trump guilty in this whole thing, is he might be covering for people who are guilty, but he himself appears to not have ever been to the island, and he knew Epstein was a creep, and he clearly did not keep that to himself. He outed it, as he said all along. And the thing is, too, if you're really dumb enough to think that Biden's DOJ, if they had the files, you really think that Trump would have been in them in an incriminating way and they would have sat on them? No, that would have been the first thing out. That way they wouldn't have had to do the witch hunts with E. Jean Carroll, or how did you file that NDA? How were the payments made for the NDA or whatever? The whole Stormy Daniels thing, they tried to get him on any charge they could. So you're going to tell me they sat on the Epstein files with him in them and didn't know? Like, get out of here. That would have been everywhere. Next. Tamira, I'm sorry if that's not how you say your name. Tamira Mensah Stock is the perfect model of how Olympic athletes should represent America on the world stage. No woke garbage, just pure pride. I love representing the U.S. I freaking love living here. I love it. I'm so happy I get to represent USA. God bless you. That is how you should act if you're representing your country. Whoever, I'm sorry, I don't know who you are, but God bless you. And I wish every Olympic athlete from America would be more like you. Next. Why are the Olympics opening ceremonies always like this? If you guys didn't see the opening ceremony of the Olympics this year, it was satanic. There's a pentagram there. And then if you go back to the last Olympics, which would have been, was that Summer Olympics like 2 years ago, maybe? They opened with this gay mockery of the Last Supper. So the Olympics, for some reason, seem to like the devil, and they like to mock Christ. So not sure what their deal is, but there's that. Next. From Eric Metaxas. So this Carrie Prejean Bowler is all mad because she got removed from the Religious Liberty Commission or something like that. And she's saying she's getting fired for being a Catholic, which no one cares if you're Catholic. It's kind of what you did or said. So Eric Metaxas said, the idea that there is a Zionist agenda at the heart of the President's Commission on Religious Liberty is sawed-off lunacy and about as unnecessarily divisive as it gets. I am seriously sickened that anyone would think that, much less say it publicly. Well, she doesn't care. She's definitely said it publicly. Going back to what I talked about, I think it was in the last episode when I shared that video of Jack Hibbs. And he was saying he thinks that this issue with Israel is a test for the church, very similar to how COVID was a test for the church and then a bunch of other things. And I agree. It's because there's enough weight to it that it's like pushing people away from just normal Christianity. Zionism, you can try to demonize the term as much as you want, but all it means is you believe that Israel has a right to exist, has a right to their homeland. And God is actually the first Zionist of all. He's the God of Zion. That's the God of the Christian Bible. That's the God of the universe. So Zionism is a Bible thing. Whether you like to hear that or not, it is. And so any Christian who is pushing back against that, you're kind of getting into a dangerous, you're putting yourself in a dangerous position, because then it's kind of easy to let your faith collapse at that point. First, you're questioning the very God that you serve. You can't, because you can't separate Israel from God. You can't. He's made an everlasting covenant with them. Those were his first chosen people. They're still a chosen people. They are in a time of rebellion and a partial hardening, and as they're, according to Bible prophecy, still supposed to be. And then it's going to come down to where God deals with them, which I believe is after the church is removed and we're up with the Lord, and then he's dealing with Israel. So if you can't understand that, understand your Messiah, your Savior, Jesus, is Jewish. He was born of the line of David. And so if you can't accept Zionism or Israel, you've got a problem with your Bible, because it's all there and it's the highest and the final say. And if God said, I'll put them back in the land and I'll never again allow them to be uprooted out of the land that I've given them, you're going to find yourself, you've now put yourself in a position to be in opposition against God. God said, I'm putting them there. Nothing's ever going to remove them. So if you're like, yeah, I don't think Israel should exist, you've taken the position of the Antichrist. And as I'm seeing it, how angry people are at Israel for everything, blaming Jews for absolutely everything, how much they hate Israel, how they're blaming Israel for everything. I'm like, if you're still here, which I'm guessing you're going to be unless you die before then, if you're still here when the Antichrist has already risen to power, and at that 3.5 year mark of the 7-year peace treaty, the 7-year tribulation, when he breaks that peace treaty and he violates it, he betrays Israel and he defiles the temple, you'll be rooting for him. You are the people who will be rooting for him, because that's how much you hate Israel and Jews. So understand, wake up. For everybody that's calling Israel's the devil, they're so evil. You understand that evil incarnate, evil in the form of a person, at least for a time, the Antichrist is not going to be Israel's friend. He's going to make peace in a deceptive way for a few years, and then he's moving against them. He wants to destroy Israel. So Jesus is the one who said, a house divided against itself cannot stand. So Satan can't fight Satan. If Israel is Satan and the Antichrist is essentially Satan, that doesn't work, because they're gonna be in a conflict when the Antichrist initiates it by breaking the peace treaty. So wake up. If you're against Israel in this whole thing, you picked the wrong side. You picked the wrong side. It's okay to criticize things the government does that you don't think are right. That's fine. It's okay to understand they have a deep state. You can recognize that and not blame every Jew on planet Earth or Israel as a whole for what their deep state does, because I wouldn't accept anybody blaming me or all of America for what our deep state does. There are a bunch of people who hate what our deep state does and want nothing to do with it. So don't apply that to America and then say, nope, Israel doesn't get that same grace. Whatever their deep state is doing, all of them got to burn for it. No. So it's a test for the church. And unfortunately, a lot of people are currently failing. Please read your Bible. Please read your Bible. You can have AI give you a little guide. If you want to read about Bible prophecy that is specifically about Israel in the last days, AI will spit out a bunch of verses for you. There is no excuse to not know this stuff at this point. You can find out in a matter of minutes. Because if you listen to people who like Candace might be one of them, people who would try to convince you the Bible does not support Zion, the Bible doesn't support Israel, that's a lie. Go read for yourself. Read. The Bible will give you all the answers you need. Next. Who else agrees? NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell needs to be fired. This man single-handedly ruined the NFL. Well, let's be honest. He's been ruining the NFL. He does suck, but he's been like this for years. I don't think the Bad Bunny halftime show needs to be like the most outrageous thing he's done. He's been garbage forever. They probably should poll NFL fans and let the people decide who wants to see Roger Goodell leave. And then let the people say, and if no one wants him to continue to be commissioner, he gets fired. Just make it like a popular vote. Look at this. You guys gonna make out or what?
Can we get a photo? Let's get a photo. Right here, gentlemen. Beautiful. Awesome. Awesome.
Well, yeah, that looked gay to me. I don't know why, but I do have a soft spot in my heart for Bad Bunny. It's not as strong as I have felt for Nicki Minaj or Lil Wayne, but I feel a little bit, I don't know, I like Puerto Ricans. I'm an ally. So I'm going to keep praying for him. I understand. I think he's a Satanist and bisexual. God only knows what. Might be AIDS infested, but there's no one that God can't heal. So I'm going to keep praying for him. Next. All right. So the original story here is a Pakistani federal court decided this week to give custody of a 13-year-old Christian girl to a Muslim man who kidnapped, forcibly converted, raped, and married her in August. So you're telling me a court gave him custody after he did all of that to her? Eric Metax says, Islam is a false religion based on Antichrist lies that treats women and children like this. Not all cultures are equal. Can we have an honest conversation about this? We should slap huge tariffs on Pakistan for this court case alone. We can do that much. It does seem like Pakistani men have a more of a problem with rape than like maybe anybody. They're kind of the worst from what I've heard. So that's terrible. I can't say. I can't say what I hope happens to him, but I would like for someone to go in. If we could like figure out where Chuck Norris is and just send him in to rescue her and then do whatever he wants in the house. Because that's awful. And it's even worse. It's not just like that he kidnapped her and was getting away with it. It's that a court ruled that he can keep her. So if someone was like, you know what, nuke the whole country for that, I'd be like, well, I do understand why you'd feel that way. Next. Satanic ritual abuse survivor Max Lowen says she witnessed children being used as party favors, hunted down in the woods by elites. So it's basically the most dangerous game. If you've ever read that, it's a short story. They've made a movie out of it, maybe multiple movies. It's about elites hunting humans for sport. So it wasn't actually a fiction story at all. It's real. She says the elites were dressed in costumes and that the events began in mansions resembling scenes from the movie Eyes Wide Shut. She says children were unalived, cooked, and served on platters. They do eat human flesh. They do drink human blood. Yeah. Have you ever seen Marina Abramovic? She does spirit cookings and it's straight up cannibalism. You know, I think this is a conspiracy and I don't necessarily have facts to back it up, but I bet you anything CPS is involved. I bet you. If you have 400 some thousand kids that go missing every year, they don't just disappear into thin air. Where are they going? I don't know. Probably to islands like Epstein's to be hunted and eaten and God knows what else. It's probably where the kids are going. Next. Speaking of Marina Abramovic, the spirit cooker. So she says she's trying to extend her life and wishes to live until she's 110 years old. As she approaches 80, she says she has no regrets about all of the sacrifices she has made. 110 will be okay, but you know it's worth it. Okay, well, I don't know if Marina knows this, but hell is going to feel the same whether you died at 110 or you died at 80. So, next. A gray wolf has been spotted in Los Angeles County for the first time in over a century. I guarantee somebody tries to catch it and make a pet out of it. And if they don't, I would try. I think here's the thing. There's always some white person who thinks they can make a pet out of like a grizzly bear or a tiger or something. And I'm like, you know what? That thing's going to just get big enough and it's going to kill you. But I do think this. I've been around a purebred wolf and it was like as nice as my dogs. And it was very submissive. And it was literally like a dog. So I do think you can make pets out of them. The only way I would trust it is if we saw at least, say, 3 generations of it. If we knew that where the pup came from, and it's been part of a family line, and we've had 3 generations of these wolves, and they've all been friendly and submissive to their owners, and there has never been a point where they've attacked humans. At that point, I would trust it. I wouldn't just grab one and think I could tame it, although I think I could, because it would feel the love that I have for dogs, and it would be like, you know what? I love you too, and it would be a buddy. Next. Insane. Democrat PACs are now releasing commercials that portray ICE agents as kidnappers. This is no surprise. Let's watch this dumb commercial. Where is it? Do I have it? Do I not have it? Give me a second, because I thought that I did. Maybe I don't. If I don't, it's not a big deal. I'll just get through this a little bit faster if I don't have it. No, I have it. Okay. Give me 1 second. So,
me too. I really look.
What are you doing?
She's coming with us.
What are you talking about? Who are you?
I'm your Republican congressman. Now that we're in charge, we're rounding up illegals.
She was born here. She's a citizen.
I don't care. She looks like one of them.
so stupid.
But don't worry. When she's in prison in El Salvador, she'll have lots of company.
I had a really good time.
I feel like that should be like a lawsuit, because that's like 4 lies in one little stupid ad. Which is how you know that Democrats don't have anything they can campaign on. All they can do is is trash what conservatives stand for. Notice how, you know, people, if anyone has been detained who is a US citizen and they've made a mistake, I'm sure they're going to make it right. Because they're not after US citizens. They're just not. And that's like this lie, this propaganda, like they're just deporting anybody that they want. Oh, do you look slightly Hispanic? Well, you're going to get nabbed by ICE. Like, no, it doesn't work like that. But it, you know, why don't you make any commercials about the policies that you have as a Democrat that you think are good, that people would want to vote for? But they never do. It's just only, how do we demonize the conservatives? And that's the only way they can campaign, which is exactly what Kamala Harris did. Every time she opened her mouth, it was about Donald Trump. Kamala, why don't you give us the ideas that you have to help get America back on track? You know, Donald Trump. Donald Trump. It's like, okay, are you drunk again? You don't have any idea. Nothing is in your head besides the name Donald Trump. You've got no ideas. Can't put together a coherent sentence. You know what's funny is you would have thought that going from Biden to Kamala Harris, at least as a Democrat, you'd be like, oh, thank God, we're actually going to have someone who can put together a coherent sentence. And then you get Kamala Harris, and she was arguably worse than Biden. Not because she's losing her mind, but because she's just an idiot. It wasn't like dementia related. It was just her being dumb and drunk. Next. Female rapper Cardi B takes a nasty fall while trying to give a robot a lap dance. Cardi B is, I don't know, oh gosh, a laughing stock and a lot. Look at this. Look at her. Look at this. Yeah. Can't walk in her heels. Towing up a freaking robot. Sexualizing a robot. Back to her stripper days. What an idiot.
Oh my God. Hi, Cody.
I feel like she could definitely, if she sued her plastic surgeon, she could definitely win. She looks like a clove of garlic. And then she opens her mouth and sounds worse than she even looks. She's a garbage human being. Next. This is Alex Stein. I don't know how to describe him. I would like to know how he keeps a straight face when he does what he does. So what he does is he goes to like what are they called when the community can come? There's like a public meeting and community members can come, and like if they have to give you like 2 minutes uninterrupted or whatever when you're in front of the mic and you can make a statement. County, city, I don't know. There's like a name that I can't think of. That's what he does. So the thing is, like, they can't interrupt him. Like, they actually have to give him his time. And he'll go and just say the most insane things, and he'll keep a straight face. He's the one who, in one of those meetings, went and he was saying how he likes the fact that there are transgenders in the military, because he's like, first of all, trans people are the meanest people that I've ever met. So naturally that makes them good soldiers. And he said, you know, they also have a tendency to kill themselves. So if we could just use them, like we'll have our own suicide bombers then, and then they can be helpful. Like, and he said all this publicly. And as people are like starting to growl, and he keeps a straight face. I don't know how he does it. So this one would even be harder to keep a straight face, in my opinion. I don't know how he does it. I don't know how. Hold on.
The Muslim Brotherhood in my neighborhood also bullying me nonstop. They come into my house, knocking on my door, shouting at me, "Oh, stop drinking cow pee! Stop eating cow poop!" They saying my cow Lakshmi is haram.
Okay, that's not the whole thing. This is Alex Jones. I'm gonna have to get to the part.
It's not the land of freedom. It's
I don't know how he does it.
but in this beautiful heaven,
There's people like looking around, filming him.
and
He's obviously pretending to be an Indian, if you haven't picked up on it.
There's Alex Stein.
Tala Oliveira made a video trying to come after my culture. Mayor, I beg you, let me eat the cow dung. It has healing properties.
A few moments ago.
Hello, Honorable Mayor of City Council. Good evening.
That's it, City Council.
My current situation is very, very bad. I am being bullied by the Muslim Brotherhood because I like to drink and eat special stuff that in your culture is not very respected. But in my culture, it has lots of healing properties. I want to say I love Donald Trump for appointing Kash Patel as FBI director. He has beautiful, beautiful country music sensation as his future bride. And I hope one day to have an authentic Indian marriage and go to their ceremony. But I'm not here for that. I'm all the way from the Holy Land of India, very, very far away. And as you may not know, or you may know, I worship cows. But cow is not no ordinary animal. No. Cow is divine mother. Her milk is Amrit, nectar from heaven. Her urine, Gomutra, is purest medicine straight from the gods. Her dung goba is holy gold, blessing for health and prosperity. But in this beautiful city of Plano, my HOA is behaving like total narcs, like big old demons, and now even worse, the Muslim Brotherhood in my neighborhood also bullying me nonstop. They come into my house, knocking on my door, shouting at me, "Oh, stop drinking cow pee! Stop eating cow poop!" They saying my cow Lakshmi is haram. My holy practices is dirty. They think it's dirty. Me filed complaints saying they will call the police on me, or more HOA will find me and make my life hell. I'm asking you, please, Mayor of the City of Plano, is this not the land of free? Is this not the land of freedom of religion? Tala Oliveira made a video trying to come after my culture. I like the cow dung. I like it for the health benefits. I know that you're not used to it. You big Texans, you eat steak, and that's disgusting. And I hope that you will burn and burn forever for your crimes against this sweet cow. So I ask you, can HOA come into my house and tell me not to eat cow dung?
20 seconds.
I don't understand. Please, Mayor, I beg you, let me eat the cow dung. It has healing properties. And I love you, Cash Patel. He's protecting the Epstein victims, but, so what? At least we got an Indian in there, right? Thank you. Have a good evening and goodbye.
I'm telling you, I don't know how he can stand there and do that and keep a straight face. I don't know how he does it. I'm sure he's done this plenty more times than I've missed the videos. I wonder if they're I'm assuming that's where he lives. I think he's from Texas. I wonder if they're sick of seeing him. I bet every time he comes into one of those meetings, they're like, great, here we go again. What's it going to be this time? But they have to let you talk. Next. All right. From Alex Jones. The Epstein files reveal that he ordered, Jeffrey Epstein ordered 330 gallons of sulfuric acid on the same day that the FBI launched a child trafficking probe into him. So if you don't know about sulfuric acid, which I'm sure everybody does, it will disintegrate a human body down into basically nothing. So that is one way. If you have bodies, because you've killed people, that's one way to destroy evidence, which is a little suspect that he ordered that right after they're looking into him. Next. Outrageous. Woke judge slashes jury's recommended sentence for violent sexual predator by more than half because of his skin color. I don't know how long this video is. If it looks too long, I'm probably not going to play the whole thing. Let me see. Oh, it's not long. Okay.
His recommendation was too long. She feels he hasn't mentally matured yet and never had a real shot at getting any help early in life.
But if you were to come in here and instead of being hurt and angry, which is what this court hears, right, as a 20-year-old African-American male that has been, experienced this society, etc., and you would show that, yes, okay, this is the situation. This is who I am. I don't want to be this person anymore. I don't want to be in jail for forever.
Thompson repeatedly stated he did not care, not about his sentence, the victim, or her family. But Judge Davis emphasized she's the one that holds the pen, and regardless of what the media may think, she applies the law. To her, 65 years was an extremely long time. As she puts it, it's his whole life, one she doesn't believe should be spent entirely behind bars.
This court does not believe that Mr. Thompson, if given the resources that he can get while incarcerated, is beyond being rehabilitated.
So I think that didn't show the whole video, but from what I watched, he was actually talking over her, saying how no, I'd do it again. I don't feel bad. And she listened to him do that and still decided to cut his sentence in half or whatever, even though he's literally sitting there saying no, I literally don't care about the victim. I don't know what you're trying to say I am. I don't feel bad. And she's like, well, I don't want to see a young African-American man go to prison for that long, even though he clearly doesn't feel bad about what he did. So she sliced it in half. Some of the judges in this country are like completely lawless, which is a problem. Now, it is a good thing that there is a system of checks and balances, because think about it. If you're a conservative, you want there to be, like, if you have a, like when Biden was in, or Obama or whatever, you don't want the president who sucks to be able to just do whatever they want without checks and balances. There should be people that'll say, no, we're not going to allow this because it's unjust or it's going to cause this problem. So it's a good thing. So now that Trump is running into the same thing with a lot of woke and radical judges blocking everything he's trying to do, it's frustrating now, but at the same time, it's a good thing they do exist. However, it seems it's gotten to a point where judges are abusing their positions and they're not ruling on the side of the law. Not anymore. They're doing it to be woke because of God knows what, whether it's a personal thing, whether it's blackmail, whatever the case is. And they're not siding with the law. And that's where it becomes a problem. If you're a judge, you should be all about the law. You know, it's one thing to buy a jury, but a judge kind of held to a higher standard there. Next. From Cat Turd, another day that Thomas Massie didn't read the Epstein file pedos in Congress that he's been promising that he would do for 5 months. Why is Thomas Massie and his supporters protecting pedophiles? Why is Thomas Massie a pedophile protector? Read the names like you've been promising for 5 months, you pedophile protector. Okay, I think that's a little rich. You know, there was this explosive back and forth between Thomas Massie and Pam Bondi, and I don't like Thomas Massie at all. But he had a point. I think Pam Bondi is absolutely, you know, why are you, if you're going to redact the names of victims, okay. But even they have said, many of the former victims are like, we don't care. You can put everything out. But you can't redact the names of the perps. You can't redact the names of the people who were trafficking children or having children trafficked to them, who were complicit, who were working alongside Epstein doing God knows what. So that's what has been redacted as far as I understand. So Pam Bondi's on the hook for that. However, Cat Turd has a point here. Thomas Massie has been saying that, and he has said, I have seen the names. So Thomas, if you have them, say it. You can get in front of a camera whenever you want. All you got to do is say, all right, now, and I understand if you wanted Bondi to do it because she should, you want to give her a chance to do the right thing, that's fine. But as soon as you realized she's not going to come out with these names, that's when you march over in front of the camera and you say, these are the names. If you're going to like put your money where your mouth is, because that's all he's been talking about for months, get these Epstein files out, put it all into the light. If you have the names, then you do it. And he's not done it. So you're kind of starting to look a little bit like her while you attack her. And I agree, she agrees to be attacked because she's protecting people from what I can tell, but you're about to be doing the same thing if you don't go ahead and release them yourself. Do it. All right. Wyoming House just voted in favor of a bill that would impose harsher penalties for sexual crimes against children. Every single Democrat voted against it. So for all you liberals out there, I wanted the Epstein files out because I thought Trump was in them. I thought it was going to be all Republicans. No, here's your chance to make your case. Why are you a Democrat? Don't tell me you care about kids, because look at all these retards that you would have voted for, all voted against harsher penalties for sexual crimes against children. That's the party you vote for. So don't ever tell me you care about kids. Next. And let me just say too, lots of the Republicans are just as bad. They're just as bad. I'm not defending Republicans. They're two heads on the same snake more often than not. It's politics. They're politicians. They're paid for. They're blackmailed. They're corrupt. I'm sure the Epstein files are full of conservatives, liberals, everything in between. people in politics, celebrities, people on the news, all kinds of stuff. So I'm not like defending Republicans, but there has definitely been plenty of opportunities for Democrats. If you want to make us, you want to make us believe that you guys are humanitarians and we care about people, well, then why don't you vote to help out kids, and then you get a chance and you won't. So a little bit of a problem there. Next. I can't believe this is real. So a drag queen who performs for kids opposes bill that would ban minors from drag shows. As a woman of God, I ask you to oppose this bill. Drag Queen Storytime was created to introduce queerness and alternate identities to families. So why are you obsessed with being around kids? As a sexually deviant gay adult, why are you so hell-bent on being around kids? Why can't you just be gay as an adult by yourself? Next. From UC Gestetner, Palestinianism doesn't harass, attack, and kill Jews so that Israel change its name to Palestine. It's about the expulsion of Jews from the land by all means necessary. Islamists did it to many minorities in the region, but Jews refused to submit. They, in fact, thrive. That's true. Israel really is surrounded by their enemies. Everybody around them hates them. And yet, the blessing of God is evident on that country, because even just look at the land, stuff grows there and it doesn't grow in the nations around them. They're smoking all their enemies when it comes to their military. So you want to call it a coincidence or call it the blessing of God, which is what the Bible says. Next. I find it interesting how any place on a 2030 smart city plan ends up having some natural disaster. Just a whole bunch of coincidences. I have a video. I told you guys, it's amazing how there are so many fires, floods, all kinds of stuff that happen right in the city.
When the waves turn the minutes to hours, the searchers all say they'd have made Whitefish Bay if they put 15 more miles behind her.
This one, I think, is, it might be about a smart city, but I also thought it was about the lithium mines, because there was already an attempt to buy out the land to put lithium mines in, because that's where that stuff is specifically there. And a bunch of the people said no, because they didn't want to they didn't want to sell their land. So thank you. Thank you.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So I thought Asheville was about the lithium mines. And that could be, and it could also be a smart city. But anyway, what else is on here?
They might have split up or they might have capsized. They may have broke deep and took water. And all that remains is the faces and the names of the wives and the sons and the daughters.
I was about to say, Maui's got to be in here.
Lake Huron rolls Superior sings in the rooms of her ice water mansion.
Wow, there's a lot here.
Old Michigan steams like a young man's dreams. The islands and days are for sportsmen.
That is making me sad. Look how they're doing it. Oh, well, hold on. Gaza?
And farther below Lake Ontario.
I just did, I'm going to end it here. I just did in yesterday, it wasn't an episode, but I was talking about the Antichrist, Bible prophecy, potential players. And it's interesting. You should go listen to it because it's interesting. But the most interesting aspect of it is that Gaza, whatever, has been flattened by this conflict with Israel, right? And it just so happens that as soon as they get flattened, you've got the UN or whoever talking about putting a smart city there. Now, a smart city would be a hub for obviously tech, identification, currency, everything would become digital, right? And it just so happens that they are on the doorstep of Israel. Well, if you're the Antichrist, who's going to do what? One of the things is set up a one world currency, one world religion, one world government, all of it. You're going to need that kind of tech to rule things out. And so now, does Bible prophecy require a smart city next door to Israel? No, it doesn't, but it would help, because the Bible says once you when it comes down to that, if you don't take the mark, you can't buy or sell. So you're going to need some kind of identification or something to be able to be part of society at that point. And it just so happens, what's his goal? To get into Jerusalem. He's going to defile the temple. Gaza is right on Israel's doorstep. So a smart city there could be likely a hub for that system to get its start and then spread all over the earth. And they just so happen to be right there next to where his target is. So I find that interesting. That's speculative. Those are not facts. I mean, it is a fact they want to put a smart city there. But what makes me think is that the globalists, well, I already think this. So Hamas, you've got Hezbollah, or maybe that's Hamas now, whatever. You have jihadists, Islamic terrorists, who were responsible for the October 7th attack on Israel, which then caused this war. Obviously, Israel's going to retaliate. They've now flattened all of Gaza. So if you were a globalist whose primary concern is to pave the way for the rise of the Antichrist, then it would be strategic for you to attack Israel. You know they're going to respond. And then have that area flattened. Boom. Now you can get started on a smart city that can likely be done in time for all of this tech to be rolled out to set up the beast system. So that would mean globalists are behind the jihadists. These terrorist organizations are taking orders from somebody. So it's not just out of pure Jew hatred, which they do hate the Jews, but they're taking orders from somebody, which is probably every deep state combined, and someone's at the top of it. So probably America's deep state, Israel's deep state, whoever, if the British royals are involved in that, every deep state that's caught up in the globalist scheme, making the way for the Antichrist. Boom. There you have the perfect place to start, to start rolling out your system. So I'm guessing that's what this whole conflict was about. That's a theory. It's just oddly convenient. Next. Rep. Nancy Mace reveals that members of Congress who view the unredacted Epstein files are being tracked and surveilled through a Microsoft product. She says they're tracking every file that we open. When we open it, they are tracking everything. I can see how they're tracking us. I mean, what do you think Microsoft has been doing? I guarantee if you have a Microsoft computer, I have multiple. If you have OneDrive, they have all of your stuff you've ever put on there. They could take it in a second. Like nothing is just for your eyes. So naturally, this is not a surprise. I'd be surprised if they weren't doing it. Rep. Nancy Mace again. She says she has seen the Epstein client list and warns that the names on it will shock the entire world. I doubt it. I bet I won't be shocked. I don't expect anybody to not be a pedophile anymore. Like, oh, they're probably, if I've heard of them, they're probably a Satanist. She adds, as a Republican, that the DOJ is protecting those identities. I agree. According to Mace, the list includes both Republicans and Democrats, along with wealthy elites, media figures, people in power, and even current and former prime ministers and presidents. She says the Epstein case will go down as one of the greatest cover-ups in American history. I bet part of the reason, if Trump, again, if he's guilty of anything, it's probably covering for people or protecting them. And I don't know that it's necessarily out of an undying loyalty to that person. I think he doesn't want to see the economy collapse. I think he wants a Nobel Peace Prize. He doesn't want it to start a conflict with another country because we leaked the name of their leader who was a pedophile. So, I mean, I'm guessing it's about much more than just what a person did on an island. I think it's like we're talking international relations and the entire well-being of the American economy, which, again, I say they all burn. So let it out. Who cares? We'll figure it out. We'll do what we can with our economy. It'll be okay. But every single person, every name should come out, and every single person should get what they deserve, which is Guantanamo Bay and then a public execution, in my opinion. But it's frustrating to see the DOJ be a complete letdown at this point. Like, Trump's delivered on a lot of things, like the deportations, the tariffs, other good things that have happened. But the most disappointing aspect of his administration is definitely the DOJ. They're garbage. Next. American shows that snow outside his home is not melting like it normally does. So does somebody want to tell me what kind of snow melts like this? Look at it. It's like rubbery. It's crazy. Look at the film on top of the ice. I have the video. I'm guessing this snow is from the big storm that that we had 3 weeks ago that I believe was geoengineered. So that would explain why you would have unnatural snow.
So does somebody want to tell me what kind of snow melts like this? Look at it.
That is weird.
It's like rubbery.
That's like string stuff you spray out of a can.
It's crazy. Look at the film on top of the ice. Look at this. Look at this. Tell me what kind of snow melts like that. It's crazy. Look at this. It's on all of it.
Yeah, not normal. And again, a bunch of people were posting pictures of how they, pictures of the sky, how there were chemtrails all over the place leading up to that storm. I'm not saying that no part of the storm was natural. Obviously, it's normal to get snow in winter. But I think there was more to that storm than what was natural. And there was cloud seeding and weather modification involved. And of course, spraying stuff in the sky to make that happen. So then naturally, if you see weird snow, that would explain why, because it isn't natural. Probably, like Joseph Z said, a swipe at our power grid because of Trump's defiance at Davos, where he was basically like double middle fingers to the globalists, not playing your game. And then they retaliated with, we'll just knock out your power grid for a large portion of the country. So that's probably, makes sense to me. Next. Epstein files confirm Donald Trump blew the whistle on Jeffrey Epstein in 2006. I think we already read that. I've got a little duplicate in here, but it is from 2 different accounts. That is true. Next. Family coloring time in a leftist house is drawing F-ICE signs. Some people really shouldn't be parents. And I know there's really no way that you can stop certain people from procreating, but I wish there was a way that you could, because some people just have no business raising kids when that's the kind of way that you're going to raise them. That kid does not have a fighting chance except for the grace of God somehow coming into that situation. That's an absolute shame. I should be allowed to beat up that mom. Next. So, witness confirms to Senator Josh Hawley, I don't know how to say his name, Hawley, that at least 14 leftist groups, including Soros, are funneling $60 million to the anti-ICE riots in Minnesota. It's all paid for and organized. Democrats want chaos and violence. Yeah. So how many times do we have to hear about protesters getting paid? It's been happening in tons of different states. through many different years now, like different protests for different things in different states. Somebody is funding the social unrest. Next. Breaking, the House passes the SAVE Act, which requires ID to vote. Almost every single Democrat voted against it. The only reason anyone would want to be against ID to vote is if they want to cheat. So I think now it has to go to the Senate. Don't know if it's going to get through the Senate. We'll see what happens. You can bet the Democrats are going to say no because they want to be able to cheat in elections, which, like she said, the only reason you'd want no ID for voting is because you want to rig elections. Next. Steve Bannon's war room was Jeffrey Epstein's idea so that Steve could avoid registering under FARA. It's right there in black and white. Everyone attached to Sloppy Steve and his show remains silent and compliant. I think Steve Bannon's a creep. I really do. I think he's... I don't want to make allegations, but I think he's a creep. And I bet you start digging, there's going to be stuff to find. I think the stuff has already been found, and he's somehow been, I don't know, not held accountable. I know somewhere Roger Stone is probably popping champagne, or he will be. If Steve Bannon gets arrested, you can bet Roger Stone's going to be throwing a party. He hates Steve Bannon. Next. Demon possession is real. Instead of calling an exorcist, I don't know that I would call an exorcist. I would get this kid into a full gospel church that actually lays hands on people and is not scared of demon possessed people. Because Catholic priests, at least the ones in movies, seem to be kind of scared. So got to find somebody who's not. So calling an exorcist, the left knowingly weaponized the entity and turned it loose. This is Jesse Van Rootselaar, whatever that name is. The 18-year-old trans shooter who murdered at least 10 people at Tumbler Ridge School yesterday in Canada. Instead of dealing with his obvious mental health issues, Canadian health authorities convinced Jesse he was trans and pumped him full of hormone puberty blockers and a whole heap of other medication. They literally poisoned his body and mind instead of getting him the help he actually needed. If you've never seen a demon-possessed person, watch this video. And here is a little snapshot of what it can look like. I wonder how many demons... So for those of you who are parents, if your kid comes home with like a bad grade, maybe take it easy on them, because just be glad your kid's not like that. It's amazing how liberal Canada is, that even after he shot and killed people, they're trying to respect his pronouns, and he's dead. I don't know if he took his own life or he got taken out by someone. But they're saying it was a female shooter, and it wasn't. That was a boy, a very, a nutcase of a boy. Even I listened to one of the fathers, his daughter got shot and killed. And he said, as he was being interviewed, she was an ally. She was a supporter of the LGBTQ community. Like, you have to say that as you're grieving the death of your daughter who just got taken out by a trans shooter, you're making sure that you sit there and say she supported the gays. And then he went on, he like doubled down on it later. So it's not even like it. I'm like, are you kidding me? What kind of brainwashing has been going on in Canada that you, as a grieving parent, that would be one of the things that you say? Next. Breaking: white tent goes up at Nancy Guthrie's home, the location where blood was found. What kind of blood? Have they tested it? Does it match her? Does it match anybody? Kind of want some more details about that. That whole situation is a little bit strange. Next. Watch: massive brawl erupts in the Turkish parliament. I did not include the video. I talked a bunch about Turkey yesterday. Go watch that. Turkey is keep an eye on them. Just keep an eye. This, I don't know. Is this a sign of unrest in the politics of Turkey, or should we expect the emergence of a new sovereign leader soon? We'll see. We'll see. Next. The Islamic takeover of America is being accelerated by fake Catholics and Bible-hating anti-evangelicals who want to convince people that Jews are the Antichrist. That's true. People literally are trying to convince others that the Jews are the Antichrist when it's the Antichrist who's going to attack the Jews. You can't get that more backwards. And that Muslims are best friends to Christians. Muslims hate Christians, even though Christians are the most persecuted people in the world because of mass slaughter by Muslims. It's true. What is happening is truly evil. The minds of Americans are being poisoned by a massively well-funded Islamic campaign. That's from Laura Loomer. She is correct, and she's not a Christian. But she does hate Muslims because she's Jewish. And even if you're not Jewish, you should understand that if you are not a Muslim, Muslims hate you. Next, especially if you're a Christian or a Jew. Breaking: Dr. Jeffrey Epstein's post-mortem says he was strangled and not hanged, per Daily Mail. Again, where was Hillary Clinton? Can we get her whereabouts? I don't think he killed himself. Next. There's no way that's a real person. It says this person is a trans Aboriginal in Australia. I outright deny the existence of this thing. That can't be a real person. It cannot be. That is a cartoon or a nightmare. Dinesh D'Souza said, I can see why the trans phenomenon doesn't really work in Aboriginal communities. No one can tell the difference. But to be fair, you can tell, even if there's a trans person here in the West, you can always tell. Unless you're talking about you could go to, if you're going to get fooled by it, it's usually one of the Thai, lady boys. You can't tell as much with them. But a lot of the trans here in America, you can definitely tell. They get mad when you can tell, but you can tell. Next. So from Laura Loomer, she said, this is so bizarre. John Mappin, who is a Scientologist and one of Real Candace O's biggest backers, is now telling people that Charlie Kirk loved and applied Scientology. This is a total lie. So the original post here says, Dear Bren, Charlie loved and applied Scientology, so please keep your religious bigotry to yourself. We are simply interested in the truth. No, this is the second, technically third attack I've seen on Charlie's faith. At first you had, it may have been Candace who was saying it, tried to say that, I think she was one, tried to say that he was a devout Catholic, which isn't true. At most, he maybe attended mass every so often, I think because his wife, Erica, is from a Catholic background, so they may have attended whatever church she came from. But he was an evangelical, and his church that he went to is just a non-denominational evangelical Christian church. And then, so that was the first thing. And then the second thing was Candace started talking about astral projection, which is an occult technique. And she was saying that her and Charlie would do that. Second attack on his faith. And then now this, to say that he was a Christian Scientist, which is essentially the occult as well. If I'm not wrong here, I believe Christian Scientology got its start from the teachings of Aleister Crowley, who was an occultist. So why can't you let his legacy be untainted? He was very bold about his faith. His faith was made up, everything about him. That was actually the core of Charlie Kirk was actually his faith, and then politics was second to that. So to try to attack his faith is straight up evil. Try to tarnish his legacy, which is all Candace has done, which I'm on the fence. Was she in love with Charlie, which is why she hates Erica because she's so jealous? Or did she actually hate his guts? Did she hate him because she's like trying to bring down his life's work? And if you loved someone, I don't know why you would want to do that. That's the last thing you'd want to do. So no, he was not a Christian Scientist. He was not involved in the occult. Leave him alone. Next. Gavin McGinnis. McGinnis. So what is this? This is the USA beat, I don't know who we won a game against, but we're going to be playing Denmark in hockey. And Gavin McInnes said, winner gets Greenland. I say we should put that in writing and let that be the case. That would be a very simple way. Next. From UC Gestetner, report, since the start of 2025, nearly half of the titles or primary descriptions in TC Network, which is Tucker Carlson Network, episodes mentioned or was about Israel, Jews, or Zionists. So that was how many? About half. In late 2023, a Qatari-linked operator invested $15 million to help launch Tucker Carlson's media company, TC Network. So that's since, what's this original post here? Okay, so it was 35%. Now it's up to like 50. So for a person who says he's all about America first, he sure talks about Israel a lot. I'm telling you, if you can't tell he's bought and paid for by the Muslims, I don't know what's going to wake you up at this point. I don't know what else you need to see. Next. From Seth Dillon. So Tucker said there's only one country that you're not allowed to criticize. And then Seth Dillon said, is this satire, or is he seriously saying you can't do what he never stops doing? That's the thing. So he's obviously talking about Israel, which is what Candace says the same thing. You're not allowed to talk about them. You're not allowed to say anything about them. But that's all you talk about. So if you really want us to believe that they're going to kill people who criticize them, then you should have been dead a long time ago. Same with Tucker. Same with probably Megyn Kelly. All these people who bash Israel all the time. And yet you're not dead. You're alive and well, still running your mouth. That would be like me driving a car as I live stream and say, I'm a woman and they don't let me drive a car. They'll kill me if I drive a car. I'm not allowed to drive a car. They'll kill me. I can do all these things, but I can't drive a car. And it's like, but you're driving a car as you say that. And you posted the same thing yesterday about how you're not allowed to drive a car and they'll kill you if you drive a car. And yet you did it yesterday and didn't get killed. You're doing it now and you've been doing it for years. And yet no one has killed you for driving a car. So it's either true that if you criticize this country, they'll kill you, or it's not. And you're living proof that it's not true because you keep getting away with it and you're not the only one, which is why Seth Dillon is saying, is this satire? To a normal person, yes, but to Tucker, probably not because he's lost his mind. Next. So doctors in USA admit they killed patients during the pandemic by putting them on ventilators and still no arrests. If you still think COVID was legit, I feel sorry for you. Wake up at this point. Everything about it didn't make sense. Everything about it was nefarious. You can't still be clinging to that narrative. If you are, I don't know, God help you. Next. This picture says it all about the state of public education in this country. So this person is holding a sign that says we are skipping. It's spelled Skiping. Our lesson to teach you one. So that is ironic that you're thinking you're going to teach somebody a lesson and you don't know how to spell the word skipping. Idiot. Next. CNN forced to admit that a majority of Americans think the Democrat Party has gone too far left. Democrats have become the party of far left radicals. I love this cocaine guy from CNN. I'm not accusing him of using cocaine, but he's very high energy, and I'm
base, right? But what about all Americans, right? How about all voters? Voters who say the Democrats are now too liberal. Look at this percentage. It was 42% in 96, 48% in 2013, now 58% in 2025 of all voters say that the Democratic Party is too liberal. The Democrats are moving to the left, the far left is gaining power, and there could be some electoral repercussions because what we see right now is voters, the clear majority, say that they are too liberal. So we're talking about
I feel like it could just be me. I mean, I'm assuming if he works for CNN, he's liberal, but I just feel like he gets excited to talk about how much people don't approve of the Democrats anymore. He seems like he's just excited to talk about it. And it's true. They've gone so far left. You could have been a Democrat like 50 years ago and been a normal person. You would have just been liberal on some issues. Now, the left has just, it's complete like insanity. So they've pushed people to the middle, because if you want to keep voting Democrat, you're voting for the trans everything. You're voting for outright, taking away guns. And there are Democrats who are, they're like, I have a gun to defend my home and I want to be able to keep it. So I don't know that I can't vote that way anymore because you're pushing everything so far. So they've pushed people to the middle, which is why if you're going to run as a Democrat, you need to be kind of like Stephen A. Smith, where you've always been a Democrat and a lot of liberal people like you, but you have some sense, because it's either that or you have like Kamala Harris, which clearly no one liked. I'm not saying I'm upset about it, but they've destroyed their party by shifting so far left. Next. Last piece of news. Carly Cucko, a licensed sex therapist in Texas, says that she wants to be alone in a room with Pam Bondi so she can beat the out of somebody. This sounds like a threat. Okay. Not that Pam Bondi looks tough, and I wouldn't even be sad if Pam Bondi did get beat up, but I just doubt that this woman here would put up much of a fight. She's got a bow in her hair. She doesn't look tough. So I wouldn't take that as a credible threat. She's not going to do anything. She's going to cry and cuddle some cats. All right, I'm done with the news, which means part 1 of this episode is over. I will pop up my graphics, and then we're going to end for a short break, and we're going to come back for part 2 of episode 96, which will not be long. But it will be its own live stream. So I'm going to end this, and then we'll come back in a few minutes. Let me pop these up. If you are following or you would like to, these are the platforms I'm on. I will put everything audio up on Spotify. I am not live on YouTube or Substack, so I will upload there as well. And then there's my email address, obviously, Instagram, Facebook. Those both have links in my bio to take you to any of those platforms that you want. I'm not going to get on TikTok. I just can't bring myself to do it. I made an account and I just can't do it. I'm not like 7. I just can't. Okay. I can't. I know it would be smart. I can't do it. I just can't. And then these are the ways, if you want to support Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, you can through any of those platforms. If you want to support Amber Alert Podcast, if you would like to be a sponsor, you can send an email and we can talk about details, or you can DM me on any of the platforms that I gave you in the last little graphic there, and we can iron things out. Other than that, that's it for part 1. And so it's 6:34. I'll come back at 6:45. Let me get this down. I'll come back at 6:45. So we're going to start a new live stream at 6:45. It'll be live on X, Instagram, and Rumble, and that will be part 2. So I will see you in 10 minutes. All right. God bless you.